Hello and welcome back to Bourbon Barrel Talk. I'm your host, Scott Minton, and today we are back at Crouch's Couch/Corner, and we are going to have a little fun, and we are going to talk bourbon. Double oak bourbon.
Double oak bourbon.
Double oak bourbon.
Double oak bourbon.
That's right.
Okay, sounds good.
Do you know what double oak bourbon is?
I just wanted to double whatever you were saying.
All right, good deal. Well, we're doubling the pleasure, doubling the fun.
Tell me what double oak bourbon is, Scott.
I don't know. Double oak bourbon is actually when you take a bourbon and then you finish it a second time in a brand new, well, it doesn't have to be brand new, but most likely it's a brand new either toasted or charred oak barrel. So it gives you the opportunity to pull those caramels and those tannins and all that extra stuff out of the barrel for a second time.
A little extra squeeze on the juice.
And I'm going to say it's probably one of the smoothest bourbons ever.
So, yeah, there's a lot of really, really popular double oak products out there. I mean, you got Woodford Double Oak, you got Old Forester's 1910, different things like that. So, but these are two expressions. One is straight from the barrel. Actually, they're both straight from the barrel. One's truly straight from the barrel. Somebody had sent me a sample. So we're going to try these bad boys and kind of go from there. We're going to start on the left, and we're going to work our way to the right, just like we're reading a book. And then you all, get a nose, tell me what you think, what you're getting, and then we're going to go from there. Sounds good?
That sounds great.
All right, number one, what do we got? Pick it up.
All right.
Brandon's already in. He's nose deep, man. He's like in there.
That's how I drink. But the
That
nose
one's-
is
that
my
one's-
favorite aspect. of
That one's
bourbon.
super smooth. Like just from a smell perspective, it's super smooth.
Yeah, I mean, the oak is there. It's got a
oak is
little bit
there.
of caramel. It's got a little bit of leather tannin, I feel like.
I get more tannin than the caramel on it.
Yeah.
I get the oak for sure, and
Yeah.
I get a little bit of like the caramel, the smooth.
There we go.
I
Yeah.
get the proof tue. So
Yeah.
I guess if anything, it's around 105, 110 proof.
Yeah. Hey, you're pretty close. So,
That's good. Are we trying it?
yeah, absolutely. Go ahead, dive in. So, it's got some nice. I'll tell you what, it's got some really good legs. It's got some chew there.
It does have some good legs.
So, initial pull. What do you think?
Very soft. Like it has a bite on the backside of it, but I like the initial hit on the tongue. It's nice.
That did not. I don't want to say it did nothing for me, but it wasn't. It didn't just knock me down until the finish. And whoa, it's like the finish completely changed flavor profiles for
Yeah.
me. That was amazing.
And like honestly, almost on the backside, you get a little bit of a rye kick,
Yep.
right? The burn in the throat.
Yep.
That's what I get at the end. But it's the beginning of it's like completely smooth.
So it's funny. I get more of the oak spice and that kick on my tip of my tongue, just like the tip of the tongue. Then the mid palate is like all your sweet confectionaries. It's got that sugar. It's got a little bit of vanilla.
Taste the malt. Yep.
Yep, you get a little bit of that sweet corn in the malt.
Yep.
And then
Is
the finish,
there malt in this one?
huh?
Is there malt in this one?
It tastes like malt, but it's not. It's
tastes like
barley.
malt.
Yeah, this is a 60-20-20.
Malted barley.
Yeah, it could be
So
malted
good.
barley. Yeah, so you could be so. But yeah, I think this is a 60-20-20 if I remember correctly on the mash bill.
I'm feeling like this is. I know Brandon mentioned 105, 110. Is that what you said? What you thought?
Proof.
I feel like it's a little higher than that. I feel like it drinks a little higher.
It drinks
than that.
maybe just a touch higher, but
Yeah.
You got to be careful with that because sometimes I've been a victim of this as well. Is if you're not necessarily you're confusing proof with complexity.
I agree.
So it might be a little bit more complex, which can make it drink at a higher proof than it is. And I've been a victim of that.
I think
many
also
times.
when you double oak something, because of that extra pop that you get with the oak and that spice that comes off that barrel, the extra tannin and the esters and things, I think sometimes that will make it appear to be a little hotter than it typically is too. Which is my humble opinion.
Yeah.
Not saying I'm right. Just
it felt a
where
little
I
hotter
get.
than that.
But I also feel like it's how you sip it.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Like if you take it in, like I just took a sip and it went down too quickly.
Yep.
And so I'm
Got a little cough.
a little verklempt at the moment.
Verklempt. Whoa.
Let-
That's like a $25 word.
he's
dog.
verklempt.
What is verklempt?
Hold on, I'll give you a topic. Rhode Island, neither a road or an island discuss. Do you remember that from SNL?
I do.
No, not at all.
That was Mike Myers.
Yeah,
Michael
it
Myers.
was.
I obviously
Yeah.
forgot. So, but what is verklempt
his name
mean?
His name was Linda Richmond.
Okay.
Or Michael Myers played a character.
Yeah, Linda Richmond. Yeah, I remember that
she
character.
she had a talk show called Coffee Talk.
Right.
Yeah.
Coffee
And
talk.
she would
Coffee
always,
Talk, yeah.
when she would get verklempt, she would give you a topic for you to discuss. And
I
it was
don't remember the
normally
word verklempt. That's so
I
funny.
Rhode Island.
I
Rhode
think it's
Island.
Disgust.
I'm going to sound. I don't want to get racist, but I feel like that's like a Jewish Yiddish word.
Yeah, it's like it's a
Yeah,
Yiddish,
Yiddish
word,
word.
and it's probably more northeast than it is here.
Yeah.
But if you have not seen Linda Richmond in Coffee Talk,
I've seen
back
it,
in the
but
day,
I just don't remember the word
You don't
verklempt.
remember
Yeah.
verklempt?
I just don't.
She would say verklempt, and she'd grab her pearls, and it was a whole thing.
Oh
It's
my
when
God.
it's when you can't speak. You're kind of hung up.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
There you go. See, I learned something new today on the old Bourbon Barrel Talk. I appreciate the knowledge, man. The knowledge bomb.
No worries.
All right, next one, number 2.
I'm still sniffing the first one. I'm
Listen,
sorry.
this
I
is
take
hot and heavy,
forever.
dog.
All right, so delving into it a little bit, I've got to guess it's an MGP mash bill.
On number 2?
On number 1.
On number 1?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
still stuck on number 1.
Okay.
I get some MGP notes out of this one on the nose.
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
All right, are we moving to number 2?
We are moving on to number 2.
Okay.
So
All right, we're moving on.
number 2 is much more delicate on the nose.
Very delicate on the nose. Like you can I barely pick up the push.
Right. It also has a really, really nice fruit note there.
And the legs are nice on it too.
Yep. All right. Taking a sip.
Oh, that's definitely my favorite out of the two. Just almost instantaneous. I like the hit, I like the middle, and I like the end.
It is a little bit noticeably darker than the first one,
Yep.
too. And I've always noticed that if it's a little bit darker, I'm going to enjoy it better.
You know, and it's interesting because fragrance-wise, you get the floral,
Yep.
but taste-wise, I do not get it.
Oh, you
at
don't
all.
get the floral in the mid
I do
palate?
not. I do
Oh.
not. I get
like field greens, like honeysuckle in the mid palate.
I'm getting nothing but like I'm eating a piece of
I
firewood.
get
Really? You're getting nothing
Really?
but oak?
just a lot of oak.
I
Yeah,
get-
compared
I
to
get-
the last one. Yeah,
Oh, it's definitely got more oak than the
yeah,
last
it's a
one.
really oaky.
I
Compared
get
to the
more
last
of a
one.
push in the oak in the beginning, but I get more of that like malted barley kind of taste in the middle,
Right.
and the backside's got a soft, gentle punch in the throat. Like I like it.
Yeah.
But I guess this one's older than the first one.
Same.
John
Yeah,
said
I
he
think
likes
it's-
a nice, soft, gentle
Yeah.
punch in the throat sometimes.
Yeah, it is what it is. It happens. It's a Thursday.
I understand.
It's a Thursday.
Tomorrow's Friday.
It's Thursday,
It's gonna
Thursday.
be a good
Thirsty
weekend.
Thursday. So I get a lot more of like florally, earthy. I get a little bit of like tobacco, mild,
A lot of
baking
tobacco.
spice.
Second sip on that, I do get the floral in the beginning.
Yep.
That I didn't notice the first round, but I do get the floral.
I think
I don't necessarily know that there's tobacco in there,
Oh,
but
I get
it's
a lot
maybe
of tobacco.
more of like the malted barley maybe taste that I'm tasting in the middle. I don't know.
I don't know.
I get a lot of tobacco.
Tobacco's sweet to me,
Yeah.
so
And
maybe it's that
And
barley.
I think the tobacco is really coming
malted.
through from the nose piece too. So
yeah, for sure.
And I think that was the oak I was getting earlier. Was actually tobacco.
And it leaves, you know, talking about the Kentucky hug, this one leaves a good hug like in your chest as it goes down.
yep.
It's a nice warm.
Let's go back to
feeling.
proof. If you were to guess which one was the higher proof, which one is the higher proof? 1 or 2?
One.
I think they're about the same.
They're within 10
10 points?
points.
All right, if I
so
had to
one is like
guess-
116, one's like 108.
I guess
I-
2 is the higher one. That's my guess.
2 is the higher proof.
Oh, nice.
That's 116.
Nice.
The first one is 108.
First one's 108.
Yep. All right. Now,
Okay.
does anybody want to guess which one is which? One is a Starlight single barrel double oak, and the other one is an Old Louisville double oak single barrel.
I think number 2 is a Starlight.
You think number 2 is a Starlight?
I don't know. I kind of feel like number 1 is the Starlight.
It's my Starlight, and I haven't drank it in a while, so I could very much be wrong here.
No, I think I feel like it's number 1. I don't know.
Brandon's the one I'm really, really wanting to
Uh-huh.
get his opinion. He's probably had way more MGP than you two have.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't
guessing 1 is the Old Louisville and 2 is a Starlight.
It's actually the opposite.
It's the
Wow.
Yeah, this is the opposite. Yeah.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, Old Louisville is number 2, and then the Starlight is number 1. So
So that Old Louisville is the
earthier,
earthier
yep,
cigar
Yep.
tobacco. Interesting.
Yep, and it's coming in at like 116 proof. Now, to me, it drinks a lower proof, which I thought was funny.
Yeah, I do. I think it does too.
Number 2 definitely drinks a lower proof than number 1, but I know Starlight because I'm there,
Right.
like all the time.
All the time,
But
right.
Starlight's definitely, and it's lighter too. I think
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
color wise.
and that's a lot of that has to do with the age. So
That's
the
maturing.
Starlight's about 4.5 years old. The MGP is around 7 years old. The Old Louisville. So
Do you know? This is a question that I've never asked at Starlight.
yep.
Do you know how they age there? Is it all conducted off of heat and cool?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like with pipes that
Yeah.
run through, like
no,
everybody else.
They're raw rick house. So
Just weather.
Yeah, it's just the weather.
Interesting.
The only
you-
people that heat cycle is actually Old Forester. Nobody else uses heat.
Okay.
Is that Starlight their own distillate?
That is their own distillate. That's a 60-20-20 mash bill,
Yep.
and it is their own distillate. So,
So 60 corn, 20 rye, 20 barley.
yep. That's why you probably were getting some of that MGP because it's so close to being a
Yeah.
21% rye, which is what
And
the
I
other
know
one
that
is.
Amine likes to mess around with
Yep.
malted barley as well. So.
Yep.
But the number one had a bigger bite on the throat, I thought,
I was
than
with
number
you.
two.
I agree.
Yeah.
But number two is higher proof than number one.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's
I
what I
think-
was saying. Don't
but it's-
confuse
Complexity with
proof.
Yep.
And in this case, Amine's the Old Louisville has both. It has both the higher proof and I think a little bit more
It
complexity
does.
as
Yeah.
well.
It's good.
So,
For sure.
all right. Well, that's our last decision. Which one do you like best, one or two? The Starlight or the Old Louisville?
I liked the right one, whichever one that one was.
The one on the right was the Old Louisville.
Okay,
So that was
that's
the
the one
second
that
one.
I
Yeah.
liked the best.
I have to say I like the second one better. And I love my Starlight people. Love them.
No, I do too.
But
100%. I'm a
number
massive
two-
Starlight fan, but I'm
Number two's a palette.
I'm an old
It's
lover.
more of a-
I'm an old Louisville fan on this one.
Yeah.
I am as well. It was very rich.
Yeah. It just had some complexity that the first one did not have. And I think that's probably because of the age of the distillate. Because the good thing about Starlight, and I will tell you this, is they do a terrific job with sourcing different types of barrels. So they don't just use Canton or ISC or Kelvin or things like that. They'll bring in a Saint-Monroe, which is a French cooperage. You know, they'll bring in a Hungarian cooperage. Like
Yeah.
they'll bring in oak from all over the world. And they're not scared to play with those things, which is
Well,
kind of neat and nice.
And let me ask you, do you think that's from, so as a winery?
That's
right,
exactly where that comes from.
So
Yes.
the corks come from
Portugal or Spain or
Portugal.
something, yeah.
Portugal.
Yep.
The corks for the wine come from Portugal. So I'm wondering if it's that relationship that they have internationally that would help them import.
I mean, it doesn't. I don't know that it helps them. It probably does help them, especially with like Saint-Monroe, because they are really, really heavily known for their wine barrels. So I bet that part of that is coming from their wine heritage, though, right? Like Hungarian wines are really popular, like their dessert wines. Like people around here would love Hungarian wine, right? But if you got out on the West Coast, people would be like, I don't want anything Hungarian wine. It's too
Right.
sweet, too this, too that, because they want their Chardonnays, their this, that, and the other. But like Europe, when you go to Europe, like there's certain things that they like, but they like certain barrels for certain types of wine, different things like that. So I think that's where their complexity comes from, and why Starlight does such a fantastic job with their finishes as well, is that they understand how certain, whether it be wine or cognacs or things like that, mesh and meld with what bourbon or rye they're putting with.
Christian and Blake are doing some really cool stuff.
100%.
down
The
there.
Hubers,
Yeah.
like they're just, I mean, from an alcohol perspective, wine or bourbon, it doesn't matter. Gin, vodka, whatever they're doing, they're just really good at it.
Yeah.
They
And-
really are. And they have such a fantastic heritage
Yep.
of what they've done over time. Like
Well, not to
it's-
mention that, but also, I mean, like they're growing rapidly. Like they just brought in a new 16-inch column still. I mean, they're going to start putting out some large amounts of juice pretty
It's
soon.
nice to hear it's not a pot still.
No, so they had a pot still, but it had a mini column on it. The original one was. So they've always had pot stills, but they've had enough column to where they could manage and run it to a certain amount of efficiency. This new one is going to give them just a complete different edge because that's the one thing I will say that I feel like their product is just inconsistent enough, because even though it is a column still on a pot, it still is, the pot is still what it is, right? Like and when you do that, also your batches are so much smaller. So there's so many more variables that can happen when you're doing smaller batches.
You can do continuously with column.
Yeah, but that's what I said. But you have to have enough plates to do continuous. Like typically to do a continuous column still, you're going to have 16 to 30 plates. So if you got a 4 ring, you're not going to get more than 2 rings per plate, so you're going to get 8 total. So I mean, it's just really hard to get that complexity unless you've got enough glass to go through that piece. All right, well, I think we all agree that the Old Louisville beats out the old Starlight Double Oak there, and I appreciate the gentleman that sent me the sample for this Old Louisville. I don't have a picture of the bottle, so you're just going to see
I
like
do
a
have
little sample.
question.
Sure, go ahead.
That Old Louisville one sample that we had is that I know it was a sample, but is there a target age for that sample? Because since it came straight out of the label, it's not an actual product. Is it? When do you think they believe it will be ready?
Oh, that I don't know. I mean, I think if he's sampling it and he's running samples on it, I would assume that he thinks it's ready. Like somebody, if they want to go pick that, they could.
Got it. Okay.
So, typically that's the way a mean kind of works in that
I'd like
situation.
to see a little bit more age on that,
Yeah.
honestly.
I would.
Yeah.
I
It
agree.
definitely wouldn't hurt probably another month or two in that double oak barrel.
Thinking like a couple of years.
Oh, well, I mean,
what is the year that
So-
we have on this one so far? The Old Louisville?
So it's 7 years old. So
7 years?
Yeah. So if you
Yeah.
double oaked it for another, I mean, I think it's been in there. Like if I remember correctly, the guy that pulled the sample and sent it to me, I want to say it had already been in the barrel for like 16 months. So I mean, you start adding a lot more time to that. You're going to get a totally different
Yeah, that's true.
flavor profile.
Well, and
double
then
oaking typically doesn't go longer than about 18 months.
Well, in this summer, we went on a tour, and one of the last things was one of the last distilleries that we went to was Whiskey Thief, and they pull everything out with a Whiskey Thief.
Three boys.
and they bottle it.
Yep.
And test it out of the barrels, and it has a raw component to it.
Yeah.
But when you let it set for a little bit and settle, and then try it, it's got a different.
Yeah.
The profile's different.
Well, not only that, it's airing. Right.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer that I think whiskey in that first neck pour is always a little bit different than something that's been opened. It's got a little air to it, a little bit of oxidation, and gives you a little bit of a different profile. So,
Yep.
Same. I've had Elijah Craig 18 year.
right.
First pour, I was
Probably deeply disappointed.
yeah. And then because it just oak. That's all I
Right,
got
yeah.
was oak on that. There was no balance.
But after it
But
set
then,
4 or 5 months.
A couple weeks actually.
Oh, really?
I
Didn't
just
even take that long?
Yeah, it was
No.
a 2021 release, and it definitely opened up.
Yep.
And then it can also open up too much and then lose its luster
Yep.
as well. So that's a double.
Yeah, I always tell people if you open a bottle, you should probably consume it in the first 16 months. I think.
I
beyond
have
that.
some bottles from 2017,
Right.
2016.
I'm not saying they're not still good. I think that they've lost their peak of flavor at that point. They're still perfectly fine, right?
compared to when they were in their prime.
Yes, yeah. I think there's a prime focus on when you open it. It's like from 2 weeks to 18 months. Like much beyond that, you're going to start to lose because
But it's not. You're not
aeration and
losing much.
No, you're not. You're not losing much, but I feel like you're losing some of the complexity because of the air transfer and also you start having evaporation, right?
Yeah,
So you lose a little bit of
The
other
low
things.
proof Heaven Hill products are a big factor of the oxidation effect, just losing its luster.
Yeah. So this episode just went totally different way, but
Yes.
but good information,
But it was
absolutely.
good. Yeah.
So we decided Old Louisville's the winner. Perfect job on both of them. I actually enjoyed both of them very greatly. If you want to find Bourbon Barrel Talk, you can find us on Facebook, the Instagram, or the X. Make sure you send us any messages through there, or you can email us at bourbonbarreltalk@gmail.com. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, whether you're listening to Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, or even Pandora. This is Scott, John, Brandon, and Andy signing off. Peace.